Hi, I'm Christy Conway with Charleston Home Design Magazine, and I'm here in this amazing Kiawah home with Bruce Canton of Canton Construction and Chris Rose of Chris Rose Architects. How are you guys doing today?
Good,
Pretty good.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being with me. This project is really special, I think, for both of you. Can you tell me a little bit about the process with the home?
Well, Chris had a client that had an older home here on Palm Warbler, and they loved the house. They'd owned the house, both families, for many, many years, and they have a very unique relationship. And Chris introduced me to the clients, and I was able to take the clients around and show them some of my work on the island, get to know them and talk with them, and then became involved with them as the design process progressed with Chris in the lead.
Okay. Chris, can you tell us about the design process?
Yeah, this is, I guess you know, I guess in the past 3 to 4 years, renovation has been key because people love where they are and that sort of thing. And that really, these are two families, not related, but very, very good friends, have been sharing vacations here for many, many years. They had some functional things that needed to get cleaned up, plus some very practical things. You know, they had window leaks, you know, and that sort of thing. So we went through the whole process. The original house, it was built at a different flood zone, so the house had to actually be raised above flood, brought up to, we have a 50% rule, which says if you spend more than 50% of the value of the home, you have to bring everything up to current code. And so we lifted the house up above flood. We found the piers that survived Hugo, had 6 inches of concrete in them and sand the rest of the way. It's pretty scary. So, but anyway, there's a whole new foundation under the house. And the whole house was sort of, the exterior was stripped off and reclad. We put a whole new roof system and captured some space on the second floor, cleaned up the floor plan a little bit. The kitchen was a little kind of little alcove before, and again, for these multiple families and these big groupings, they wanted it. So we have an open kitchen now, new hurricane resistant windows, better insulation, more energy efficient heating and air conditioning systems, and also gave them tons more space upstairs for some additional bedrooms.
Right, so you actually added, what, two bedrooms upstairs, and that's a whole new section of the house,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, in essence, actually, when we pushed forward in the front of both wings, we were able to pick up another bedroom downstairs too.
Oh,
So you
okay.
really picked up 3 bedrooms.
Right.
If you wanted to count the media room as a bedroom, then even more so.
Because that used to be a bedroom,
Yeah,
right?
that
Right.
was a bedroom and could be classified as a bedroom or used as a bedroom.
And actually now, you have dual master bedrooms.
Correct.
Okay, and that's because of the 2 families, I would imagine.
And that we're doing a lot of that. I guess even if we don't have 2 owners, we'll have kind of the master bedroom, even in new construction, and we have what we call a mini master, or a nice suite for their buddies, or that of all the guest rooms, there's one that's a little bit nicer. So that's kind of a typical thing that is kind of a trend, I guess, that we've been seeing happening lately.
Yeah, we're starting to see some combined family trends where you've got multiple generations starting to pull parents back in, or kids coming home to roost for a while they're figuring things out, especially after this last crazy economy that
Sure.
we've gotten out of.
That's probably especially the case with second homes, because so many different people will be coming and going. Do you find that a lot? I mean, Kiawah being a second home kind of place, do you find that a lot?
Well, and like I said, that especially people find renovation very attractive, in that they love the neighborhood, where they are and that sort of thing, and we've seen lots of in my practice, I've probably done as equal number of renovations as I have
Really?
new construction.
That actually surprises me.
Yeah, it's. I find some architects only do new construction. It's kind of interesting, but no, I've always, and it's kind of interesting. And people ask me, say, "Well, what do you like?" Say, "Well, I guess you could have a big ego and say, oh, I'd love to have a architectural expression of yourself." But actually, the renovations tend to be the more satisfying because the homeowner has kind of lived with it, and there's some quirks that have kind of kind of bother them over, and then once you kind of clean up the floor plan, give them a, and they're just like, oh my gosh, it's, they really are excited about how well the house functions, and they actually can enjoy the home much better. And the nice thing too is having some of the newer materials. They're a lot more sustainable in that, that they'll last longer. They're, what we call a life cycle cost. So you look over, as the investments, and that's how these clients wanted us to look at the items, and then we discussed, and they said, well, if I have to pay a little bit more and it's a little bit more durable and I don't have to paint it so often, and that they were willing to go that route, which was a very smart way of doing it, especially in second home or investment property.
And this close to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're literally steps to the ocean
Right.
from here.
Right.
So it's a real tough climate for building products.
Speaking of sustainability, you'd actually mentioned to me about the HVAC system and how kind of unique that setup is. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we were fortunate enough to have an architect that thought out the process of what you do with HVAC, and we have designated areas in both wings that carry all of the HVAC equipment, and also sets where the trunks start and all the runs run from. And it's enabled us to keep all of the HVAC stuff in climatized space.
Mm-hmm.
So we have nothing running underneath the house, nothing that's susceptible to rodents or humidity or weather, or even if a flood came and came to right with underneath the floor area, we would still be okay. So encapsulating everything in the living space like that makes it so much more efficient. It should be so much cheaper to run this way.
You'd think people would do that more often.
Right.
Is that kind of unique?
No, well, I tell clients it's interesting. I did commercial projects early on in my career, and when you're doing a commercial structure, you basically have enough floor-to-floor height that you can run all the plumbing, all the mechanical systems. And as throughout my 30s of practice, it's like we are putting a lot of systems into a home, and then you have to think about ceilings and and we have height limits here and all that sort of thing that you have to deal with. And it's a lot more complex. I mean, a residential home is actually a lot more complex than I've done multi-story buildings, and these are generally to try to integrate. It's kind of like designing almost like a compact car. You've got everything, it gets everything in there, but you've got to really think about where things go. And it's interesting, in critters, that's also a thing too. You have to be really careful. When we did renovations, we found raccoon runs in the floor joists that the raccoons had gotten in and all kind of, so it's, we have one client that does a critter control thing out here, and she says, keep sending her photos, and she said, I think it's the same one. They just keep sending the same photo. She's going, I want DNA to make sure that's a different raccoon that you removed from the property.
Dropping them off at the end of the street.
Now, speaking about renovations, obviously you and Chris work together well and often. What made this renovation unique? I mean, you'd mentioned it was almost a total overhaul. Can you say why exactly it was?
Well, when we got into the structure, we found just less than we were hoping for. And you really can't be 100% sure. When the house was sitting on its foundation, everything looked to be substantially there. And then once we raised it and put it up on the I-beams and had space to crawl around underneath there and really look it over, not only were the piers unsubstantiated, but so were the footers. So we scraped everything out and started over again. That kind of almost happened all the way through the structure. We just got the worst case scenarios. We had way more rot than I could have ever expected, and it just ended up being virtually a new house, except for the touches that we tried to maintain for the clients.
And what were the touches?
Well, the great room that we're in, this was actually one of the key elements the clients wanted to maintain. It's a volume space, and so originally took up, basically it was a gabled roof area and turned it into a gambrel roof. The nice thing about the gambrel is that you get a lot of head clearance, so that's one reason why with our first scheme, when we showed them the renovation, we didn't have a second floor. And they say, well, with the gambrel, the beauty of it is you end up having some nice, you can walk up very close to the roof, and so the upstairs bedrooms are actually within the roof, and so that's what, and so that, again, the things that they were familiar, because like I said, they've got multiple years of family memories here, the two families, and so redoing the fireplace that was here originally and keeping the volume of this main living space was sort of the heart of the home, and then making a new open kitchen, open up to that area to kind of live like, our lifestyle that we live now, more open. So we basically have the kind of the heart of the home, but have updated it, and it'll be a generational home for their children to inherit and keep the memories going.
Because they couldn't have kept the house that they had, basically. I mean, it was going to fall apart.
It was going to need something.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. It's like, do you put more good money after bad?
Right.
It gets to that diminishing return.
So there was that question: do you tear down the house?
Right, and we looked at again just taking it down and giving them the square footage, what it would cost at that time, what the cost per square foot to kind of replicate the house and the all new. And anyway, but again, they have a new house and it still came in under that ultimate number if they had taken everything down. But they virtually have probably 90% of a new house. So, but it's great because then you have the life, of all the materials and that sort of thing. So they do get renewal. And then, in this talk about sustainability, renovation is the ultimate sustainability. Because we did reuse a lot of the existing structure that was sound and then add additional structure to shore up what was needed.
Okay, so being the builder, I can imagine that the ceiling would be hard to build. It looks quite difficult with the inward curves and things. How did you tackle that?
The truss came down from a truss manufacturer up in the northern part of the state, and he sent them down to 3 pieces, each truss, and then left them here for us to figure out to assemble and whatnot. But through Chris's design and whatnot, we had a pretty solid idea of how we were doing all of this and how we made the bow shape, the inverted bow shape of the ceiling line. And so the real challenge was they're pretty hefty and very heavy, and my 3 guys and myself were challenged with how to put each section up and then put the 3 sections together and meld them together and attach them all and make them self-supporting. And that was the challenge and the trick, was putting them all up and together.
Because ultimately that is the goal, is it's supposed to support the ceiling. It's not just there to be beautiful, right? I mean, it's structural.
These trusses are not particularly structural
at
all. These trusses are all set up for the decorative aspect of them.
Back in the day, I guess they were structural.
but they're heavy, so these have to be supported.
They have to be really well hung from the existing rafter system.
Okay. Now, what's your favorite part of the house? I know you mentioned the upstairs, that one bedroom, which is fantastic.
When the client starts to work through Chris and say, okay, we'd really like to do something really wild and different in here, and you get to put up like a beadboard interior that goes throughout this room, and then the mantel and the bookcase design comes together, and then your cabinet maker starts bringing in his cabinetry and whatnot. So towards the end of the project, when you really start to see all of the design work come together and start to really meld, that would be it.
And what about you?
Same. I think, again, probably the great room space, I think we're the most pleased with it, because again, we modernized it, still brought in as much glass and view we can, because the nice thing, this is facing north, so we can have as much light without having to worry about the sun coming in and heating up the room. So it was great. So we could, and there's the wonderful trees and the golf course view. So it really does like almost like you feel like you blur that inside outside feel.
Sure.
And then they did do an amazing back porch.
Oh, yes.
Off the back and runs right out onto the deck and their barbecue and whatnot, so they can really capitalize on the golf course front, living out there.
Now, you work separately and together, right? So if someone were to need remodeling, they can always come to you, or new construction. And same for you. I
Sure.
imagine you do new construction as well.
Absolutely.
Now, how would they go ahead and contact you? Do you both have websites that are independent of one another?
Oh, yeah.
We
And-
do.
Yes, we do.
And what are they?
Chris?
ChrisRoseArchitects.com.
Okay.
And mine's CantonConstructionCo.com.
Okay. And what if they wanted to give you a call? Chris, what's your?
843-559-7670.
And do you suggest that people give you a call if they're even just thinking about getting an architect?
Exactly, or again, they can go to our website, and you can contact us by email through the website, which is great. And actually, we're redoing the website, so hopefully we'll be launching the new revised one in a couple weeks. So.
I think that's our goal too. We'll see. And what about your phone number?
795-6388.
Okay. And do you do smaller projects as well, or just
Yes.
total remodels? Okay.
We
That's
do
good to know.
we do from very small to very large,
Great.
all ranges.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. This has been a really great house to walk through.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.